Hello and welcome to my crafty channel. I'm Paula, and today we're actually going to do a masculine layout, which is always something that we strive to do with our supplies. A little bit trickier. You can't just add in a little floral here and there just to make it look pretty, because we really want to keep that masculine vibe going. I've got some fun photos to work with. Now this is my older son William. He very rarely lets me take some photos, but we headed out to a tea place actually. It's called the Geelong Pavilion. It's in just on the outskirts of Hamilton in New Zealand. Such a neat place and beautiful grounds, and so I've taken a couple of shots of the grounds. But while we were there, I managed to capture some fun pics of my son just looking his gorgeous self. So I thought it would be really neat to get these into his album. It's a good little reflection of how he is in his first year at university, which is kind of cool. Okay, so the papers I'm thinking we could use with this, it has a bit more of a masculine feel to them. They are called the Autumn Toile 12 by 12 designer series paper. So there are 4 different designs in this paper pack. There are 3 of each of these 4 different designs in there. You'll see this side is very much just your masculine greys, browns, very generic sort of patterns. On the other side is where you get that hint of autumn coming through. So of course this would be beautiful if you did have an autumn scene to capture. Look at these gorgeous earthy colours that are coming through. We've got some, what are the colours here? We've got some Cajun Craze, which is this lovely orangey red. We've got Early Espresso, which is the rich browns, grey granite, Mossy Meadow, that lovely green, Pecan Pie, which is a bit more of a lighter brown, and very vanilla. And rather than white, it's more that sort of creamy shade that's coming through. However, I love the other side of it. So this side here is going to work really well for my slightly more masculine pages. And given that it's got this sort of more of a I guess symmetrical stripe going on, it kind of suits your slightly older males. So I think this is going to work well for my son. So we're going to pop this all through. I have printed many of the photos in a 3 by 4 size, but I did do one key photo at 6 by 4 because it's quite nice to have one stand out slightly. Now I'm thinking I'm going to use as my base page this lovely grid. It's probably my favorite. I really like the sort of texture in it, but I do want to add a little bit more texture to it just to give it a little bit more of that masculine grungy feel in the background. So I'm going to take a sanding block and I'm just going to go around the edge and just distress it a little bit. It's just going to add a little something, make it look a little bit less perfect, and you'll see now when I bring it up closer how it's got that more distressed edge rather than the nice clean edge, and that's just going to help to pull in that young male masculine element to the page. So I'll go off and finish that on my 2 pieces. These will be my double page backgrounds, and let's see where we take it from here. So I've got my 2 base pages prepared. I've now laid them onto my 2 12 by 12 mats because I want to do this as a double page spread. And I've just got my little photos here. I'm thinking that I might keep the feature photo more onto the left hand side. We've got a couple of the scene, so I could actually overlap these over here somehow with a little bit of interest to the left. And then I've got this little series of photos to the right, which somehow I'm just going to, maybe they just sort of lend themselves to a very linear design to the right hand side. So that's sort of all the different photos I need to fit in some way. Now in this range there is a beautiful metallic paper as well. It's got this real coppery effect, and you can sort of see me reflected in here, but it is beautifully shiny, and it's got that lovely rich warm colors coming through as well. So I could look at doing a little bit of some feature around my feature photo of this metallic. I love bringing in a little bit of specialty paper for that purpose, and I could also bring a bit of that back into the title as well. So that is something that I'm considering at this point. Now I've also got these other 3 patterns that are available without going into the very decorative autumny feel. So if I go for these ones, I'm thinking that I might get just a little hint of them onto the left hand side, and then maybe I'll pull in the stripe effect on the right. So I'm just thinking vertical strips down this side at the moment. So I'm just going to go away, cut a couple of these strips, and we'll just have a little bit of fun with the placements. So as you can see, I have cut 3 strips, are 3 inches wide, and I'm thinking I may stagger them in some fashion down the bottom. And then I've gone and got that beautiful copper paper. It's actually called earthen toned metallic 12 by 12, and I've got the amount I need for the framing, gutted out the center because we don't want to waste this beautiful paper, so that could be used for an embellishment to the side, and that's going to be great to give this little photo an element of special pop compared to the rest of what's going on in the page. Now I wouldn't mind doing a little bit of a dovetail on these, so I'm going to get a little piece of a little square that's, well, it's reasonable size, and I'm going to use it as my framing to get quite a consistent deep dovetail going on my piece. Now I'm actually wondering whether I do this a little bit further up, because then we can make a feature of the base piece as well. So I'll just grab a pencil and we will start to trace this just to give that little effect. So I'm going to start a little bit further up, make sure it's in the center, my little pointy piece. I can kind of work that out from the sides. Pop my little pencil mark in here, and then I can go away and cut this out. So I will do that and we'll come back and convene again. So here is the effect it creates. Now I did get this idea from Erin Jacobson, who's got Crafty Concepts with Erin, I believe is her YouTube channel. She did this many years ago. She based it on the corner of a piece, just like I showed you, but I felt that it was a little bit too deep now for what I was trying to achieve. So I created myself another one. What I did was just got a strip, I got the center point and marked it with a pencil, and then I just went down 1 inch on each side so that it's not quite such a severe angle, and I think those are a little bit better in terms of the height that I wanted to achieve. Now because I have cut it halfway up like that, it means that I can sort of separate these pieces and create quite a neat little effect with them. I can lift that one, I can drop that one, whichever direction I want to go. Now what I could do instead is to bring these pieces over to the other side, layer them all up nicely. They give us that chevron effect over here, and then maybe bring in that kind of pattern to the other side of the page instead, and that would actually allow me to do a little bit of overlapping with these, which is always a nice effect. Overlapping which way you prefer, just slightly, so it's still quite wide, but it just gives that nice little layered up, with my photo now, my feature photo, able to stand just above that decoration. So I'm thinking I might go with this. I'm not sure if I'll put those there. Still quite like that concept, but I like them to be a bit overlapped as well. I could obviously do this. So, you know, there's a few options that I can continue with this layout. Now, what I want to do therefore is bring a little bit of this pattern paper over to here. It could be with those little chevrons, but it could also be with just some simple strips across the inside center. I'm also thinking that I want to introduce one more color. So if you're looking at these, you can see there's a lot of greens, and there's definitely this kind of dark blacky type jacket that William is wearing. So I was wondering whether I should be bringing in a bit of black, and so let's just have a look at my options. So if I pull in black, it is quite a contrast to brown. It's possibly kind of going away from that earthy effect, and it's very harsh. So I could do it. I'd have to definitely texturize that, maybe with that sandpaper again, just to soften it down a little. That's one option. I did wonder though, because blue always goes so well with grey, with brown, sorry, that it would look really nice to have blues contrasting. I could go the lighter too, the more denim-y effect. But when you pull that in with the photos, it works, and definitely the lighter one works better because we have got a bit of that blue going on in the sky as well. So that does work quite nicely, but it is quite a contrast, and we're getting 3 different sort of colours showing up. So I'm a bit nervous about that one working. And then I thought about Secret Sea. Now, Secret Sea is sort of like an inky blue, so it's very, very deep. You've got your softer side, which is almost a grey blue on that side, which tones in, definitely, and it might be that is the way to go, actually. I was thinking the other side, but now when I look at this, you know, you could bring in that sort of neutrally grey blue in, have that with that black, so it's kind of got that tonings, but it still ties in with the brown. The other side, which is what I was considering, is that really rich colour, which is close in colour to his jacket, and it still brings in the blues that go better with the brown. So I've got 2 options there. I quite like those. So I'm thinking I may do a little panel across here of this, and then we'll see what we do next. So that makes quite a difference having that little strip going all the way through for our double pager. Now I'm going to pull in some strips of the patterned paper to bring it over to the side. So I've got a 1.5 inch strip here first, and then I'm layering over a 1/2 inch strip, and then to bring in some of that metallic that is behind there, I'm just going to layer a little strip of that above, and it just brightens up the page somewhat. I'm also not totally happy with the balance of these photos, so I'm thinking I might just switch a couple around, maybe bring one of those across here, bring one of my more scenic ones across there, and that helps to break the flow and keep away these two that are quite close together, and that feels a little bit better for me. So the next thing we're going to do is pop a title in and start to think about our embellishing. But before I do that, I will go around and distress all these edges. They feel like they need it, so I'm going to use Early Espresso to go around the edges, and I'm going to matte all my photos. And I'm thinking I might matte the photos with the dark side of our Secret C, just to give that little bit of contrast between the photo and the matte below it. So I'll go off and do those, and we can get to the fun part of the final embellishing. So now we've got these all distressed, I'll just give you a couple of tips here. I have used the Stampin' Spot directly around the edges here, so you can just swipe so easily. For the Secret C, these large pieces, because I've only got the large ink pad, I've used a sponge to go around the edges there. And for the actual photo mats, I've ended up distressing it, just using a tool I had from my stash to scrape around the edge. But you could of course bring in your sandpaper and do the same type of idea with that. So I've got them all distressed, I've got them ready to go. Now we need to put a title on here. And I've got this really cool stamp set that's just become a online only release, and it's got that really repetitive pattern that we've got going on in our background. I thought that could be quite fun to bring into the title, and I actually really like this title, Picture Perfect, but it's too small, so I want to make it a larger title. So I've gone to my large title alphas, and I've got all the letters here to cut out of. I just haven't decided what colour yet, but we're going to do Picture, oh I've forgotten the E, Picture Perfect will fit along here as a larger title. I do find with masculine layouts it's quite good to bring in a large font. It just helps to bring, make that sort of slightly heavier, grungier look. So that's how I'm bringing that in, but I may still use the little Perfect from this one to overlap at the end. So I'm going to use the Secret C we've been using in the background, and I may use the light side, the dark side, or a mixture of both to cut these out. So I have actually cut the little strips of this at 2.5 inches. Now, because there is that really fun stamp in here that's got that repeating shape, I feel like I might stamp that onto the light background for a little bit of interest before I cut out those letters. So let's just push this to one side, we'll turn this over, and I'm literally going to use some white ink for this. White ink stands out beautifully, but it's not perfect, and I really like that when I'm doing a more distressed layout. So I'm going to pull in the white and just stamp up our little grid. And I'm going to be quite messy here. In fact, just because of the shape of it, I'm just going to kind of go across this way. And it will be messy. It might have some overlaps and some gaps, but that's kind of the effect I want, because we're just going to be cutting out letters. And these letters are quite likely going to be in the backdrop. They might be my shadow. So I'm not too fussed, and I just want a bit of texture and interest. So that should give us enough to cut out the word picture. As you can see, I should really have had a mat underneath me, but I can just wipe that off with a damp cloth, no problem. Another element we have in our stash that has got a similar type of effect is the plaid embossing folder. And this is a 3D embossing folder, and I'm thinking for the darker letters, I might cut them out first and then run them through the embossing machine so that I've got that kind of texture coming through that's very much grid-like again, just to repeat some of those patterns throughout. So I'll go away and do that, and let's see how that title looks. So here you go, here's the title. It looks quite great with all the different textures in there and the two layers. It really makes it stand out, and I've still got that little Perfect stamp to the side on top of a lovely little shiny copper strip. Now I'm going to bring in some shapes because I just wanted to bring in a little bit extra pop of colour. This colour is Copper Clay, and it was in colour a couple of years ago, and I've just taken the meant to be die set, which has got a whole heap of hexagons, just to add those sort of random shapes around, and that's adding that lovely pop of the orangey red into the mix. And I really like how this has come together. I take this away to actually sort of trim it down and layer it all up, and here is the end result. I do enjoy how the copper has come through and those lovely reddy hues. The large title is such a hit when I do my masculine layouts, and you can see I've added a little touch of journaling. I hope you enjoyed seeing this come together. Thanks so much for watching.